Good morning, everyone. Over the last few days, we have seen many news reports suggesting that Brazil's coffee crop could be affected not only this year but also next year. But I believe it's too early to draw conclusions about next crop. Right now, our focus should be on understanding this year's harvest. The real question isn't only how much coffee Brazil will produce, it's also what quality of coffee will reach the market. Many headlines are focused on production estimates and harvest delays. Few are talking about coffee quality. As the harvest moves forward, we will have a much clearer understanding of both production and the quality. But as always, markets doesn't wait for certainty. They move ahead of the facts. After all, the biggest opportunities often came from uncertainty, volatility, and the expectations built around them. As soon as the weather reports came out, coffee prices moved up very quickly. And we can clearly see this in the week's news, in the market excitement, and in the way that New York coffee market react. That's exactly how financial markets work. Trading algorithms read the red lines. They see words like rain, harvest delay, and Brazil, and they quickly expect a possible supply problem. But a delayed harvest doesn't mean there will be less coffee this season. Of course, the market is also looking ahead. If one favorable weather persists, it could affect next year's crop. And futures price often move before that happens. But we should always remember one thing. Once the weather improves, harvest can move very quickly again. So, before saying Brazil has a supply problem, we need to separate what the market feels from what is actually happened in the fields. And we also need to split in two different crops, this year's harvest and the potential impact on next year's production. Delay does not equal deficit. This is one important point to keep in mind. A delayed harvest is often just a delay. It doesn't not necessarily mean Brazil will produce less coffee. The crop may still be there. So instead of asking how much coffee will Brazil produce, I think we should ask different questions. How quickly can farms return to the field? Will the weather become dry again? And most importantly, how will all this rain affect coffee quality? Because that's where the real history begins, not with the amount of coffee, but with the quality of the coffee available. This happens because the rain doesn't just slow the harvest, it can also affect coffee quality. When ripe cherries stay wet for longer, drying becomes more difficult. That may increase the risk of fermentation. It may also increase the chance of mold and the other defects. And in some cases, it can make it harder to keep the same cup profile. These all are possibilities, not certainties. The final result will depend on the weather over the next few weeks and on how producers manage the harvest and the post harvest process. That's why the market is still talking about production, while experienced buyers are already paying close attention to quality. Another important point is that importers doesn't buy Brazil, buy very specific coffees. They need a particular screen size, a consistent cup profile, low defects, reliable quality, and consistency from shipment to shipment. Brazil may produce a very large crop, but only a fraction of that crop will actually meet those commercial requirements. That's why the physical market price quality, not just quantity. This slide highlights the difference between financial markets and physical cost trading. Algorithms react to rainfall, harvest pace, price movements, and headlines. Coffee professionals see something very different. They evaluate fresh samples, they monitor differentials, they observe producer behavior, they cup coffees, and they understand physical availability. But there is another important factor. Coffee, it's not a closed market. It's one of the most volatility commodity markets in the world. Large market participants often compete aggressively for position. Short squeezes and sharp price moves can happen, especially when uncertainty is high. Algorithms trade public information. Coffee professionals trade information from the field. And the best decisions came from understanding both. This is exactly why boots on the ground knowledge matters. Over the last few days, we have been speaking directly with Brazilian cooperatives, exporters, producers, and coffee partners across different regions. Those conversations provide insights that you simply can't find in the headlines or market reports. What we are hearing is actually very consistent. Standard samples are still limited. Producers remain cautious about committing forward sales, and nobody is yet confident about the final quality of this crop. That's exactly why strong relationships are so valuable. They help us understand what's really happened before the numbers tells the full history. Right now, nobody has all the answers, and that's normal at this stage of the harvest. So, what should professional buyers do? First, follow quality, not simply production estimates. Second, request fresh crop samples as early as possible. And third, compare different producing regions instead of treating Brazil as one homogeneous orange. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, build strong relationships with trusted partners who have boots on the ground. Local market intelligence almost always arrive weeks before official reports. So, I'd like to finish with one simple message. Don't confuse a delayed harvest with reduced supply. This season's biggest history may not be production at all, it may be quality. And the quality cannot be evaluated from a trading screen. It requires information, it requires field experience, and above all, it requires trusted relationships. Information creates opportunities, relationships create access. Thank you very much.